guys, Char5 here, and today we are going to be drawing the thumbnail for Everything Wrong With Sonic Adventure 2, and we're also going to be taking this time to talk about my experiences with Sonic Adventure 2. For the longest time, it was my favorite 3D Sonic game, actually, for a very, 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 very long time. Nothing at all topped it until, I think, probably actually until Colors came along, or even Generations. Like, one of the two is, like, what really made me realize, like, okay, I actually like this game more. I remember probably my first experience with the game was at a friend's house, actually, because when I was growing up, I grew up with a Genesis and a Super Nintendo. So when it came to the Dreamcast and the Nintendo 64 era of gaming, I wasn't really all that there, except for PlayStation. I was kind of around, like, despite the fact that PlayStation was around the same time as Dreamcast and 64, I was more familiar with PlayStation than the other two consoles. The first time I ever played a Dreamcast was at a cousin's house. She had a Dreamcast and she had Sonic Adventure. And I remember playing that for like a very short time. I don't even remember like why I was at her apartment or, you know, whatever. But I remember playing Sonic Adventure on her Dreamcast. And Sonic Adventure 2, I didn't know was on the Dreamcast because I played it at a friend's house at the time on his GameCube. So I was very unfamiliar with 3D Sonic at the time, and we played a lot of the two-player mode, so like that's kind of how I got my experience. And I had very few games on PlayStation, so like the 64-bit era of gaming is kind of a blur to me. You know, despite the fact that I was kind of born right as the 64-bit era of gaming started, and as a result, you know, I missed out on a lot that I didn't get to play. Like, what I got to play then was like a lot of remasters of those titles. And that was kind of one of the things that made me convince my parents to like get a GameCube. Aside from the fact that my dad loved Resident Evil 4, like that's probably one of his favorite games of all time. It was a chance for me to play Sonic Adventure. And Sonic Adventure 2. I didn't even know about Sonic Adventure. Like I said, I played it for a very short time at my cousin's house, so I kind of blocked it out and forgot it was a thing. But I remembered Adventure 2 very, very fondly. So, and that was actually a really funny thing too. I remember we went to GameStop to look for Adventure 2, but I didn't remember what game it was. But all I knew it was a 3D Sonic game. So I saw it on the shelf, and I picked up Sonic Adventure 1, or Sonic Adventure DX, rather, on the GameCube. Again, I didn't remember about the game, and when I played, I was like, this isn't the game I played. Where's the game I played? And then I picked it up sometime later, and it just became one of my favorite games of all time. I loved the way it controlled. I still really do like the way it controls. And I would spend so much of my time playing that game. And it's funny because despite how much time I spent with it, there were certain things I actually never got to do, such as getting a Chaos Chao, which was something I always wanted to do. And despite the fact that I spent so much damn time in the Chao Gardens, it was something that I just never was able to do. And I wanted it so bad. I remember my first Chao ever was, I named it Roxy. Well, I didn't name it Roxy, because when I went to go name it, it gave me the name Roxy, and I was like, okay, yeah, I like that name. And then it reincarnated it. I made it a Dark Chao, I remember, and then when it reincarnated, I decided to make it a Hero Chao and name it Roxanne. So I changed its name. And she was like my favorite. Like, I know that Chaos don't have genders, or Chao don't have genders, but like for some reason, because the game gave me the name Roxy, I was like, okay, you're a girl now. And you know, she was my favorite. I gave all my attention to her and put her in the races and in karate, and she was just, to me, she was the best, even though she couldn't really win at everything, but it didn't matter to me. I never got all the emblems. And as a result, I never got all A ranks because some of those missions were just too hard, and I didn't have the ability to get them. And then there came a time where I found the internet, and I found like guides on how to get A ranks, or like what the stipulations for the A ranks were, how many points I needed to get, how much score, how high my score needed to be in order to get the A ranks. And I've never done it. Although I do have the game on Steam, so I've thought about it, and I do want to maybe at some point go back and try to get all A ranks, because I've never played through Green Hill Zone, which is the special, secret stage you get for getting all 180 emblems. I've seen it in action, but I've never played through it myself. And it's funny because if I didn't have the time when I was a kid to get all those A ranks, it's going to be really hard for me to do it now that I'm an adult and, don't play games for leisure anymore. It'll be very hard, but I do want to do it. It's sort of on my bucket list of life. As for the story, I was so taken aback by, at the time, of course, when I was a kid, I was taken aback by how amazing I thought the story was. It was so good. I loved the voice acting at the time. I never found it corny or ridiculous or stupid. I never found it that way. I always loved the story. I loved playing through the last story as all the characters. I just got really good at I guess in a way speedrunning the game, even though I'm not a speedrunner at all, and I'm very far away from being one. But it was a game that I thought I could speedrun at the time. I thought I knew all the tricks about it. I remember I had a best friend in elementary school back in California, and he and I became friends because we both loved Sonic, and Sonic Adventure 2 was one of our favorite games, both of us. And it was the thing we talked about all the time, and it was how we bonded. And there was this other kid in our class who, and this was the only instance that I can remember of ever video game gossip, because I didn't really have many friends. And as a result, I didn't really talk to many people. So I didn't really get a lot of video game gossip as a lot of other people have. But this is the only piece of video game gossip I ever recall from my childhood. He told us that if you beat the Bio-Lizard, Shadow's Bio-Lizard, in under a minute, you would go to a secret boss battle to fight Chaos Zero. And my friend and I were very skeptical about it. However, I don't know if he believed him or not, but I secretly wanted to believe him. I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, okay. Let's do it. And I never did. It's fucking impossible to beat Bio-Lizard in less than a minute, but part of, I guess I still am a very imaginative person, so in my mind I was like, yeah, sure, it's kind of like the boss battle from Sonic Adventure 1, except, it's inside the Bio-Lizard's mouth or whatever, and the background is really trippy and weird because it's inside his mouth. I don't know why that's immediately what my mind went to, but part of me believed him, part of me, part of me didn't believe him, part of me wanted to believe him, I think, was what it was. So I have a lot of really, really fond memories with Sonic Adventure 2. Like I said, the Chao, the missions. I remember it was the first time I ever had any sort of experience with Japanese anything. Because for the longest time, I just had my file set to Japanese voice acting with the English subtitles because I liked it more. I loved the Japanese voice cast, and I still do. I still really do. I can't believe that they've been so consistent after all these years. As most Japanese media is. And, the English voice cast I loved as well. Just so much about the game I loved. Because a lot of people, I understand, only like certain parts of the game. And I guess I can agree with that, I don't think I can say that I love Adventure 2 as a whole. But I was never really adverse to any of the sections, I loved, obviously, the speed sections of Sonic and Shadow. Who doesn't? A lot of people don't like the mech stages with Tails and Eggman. I never minded them. However, I do think they were probably my least favorite and the emerald hunting stages, I liked. The later stages, of course, are a bit of a chore. Fucking Mad Space and what's the other one? Because Rouge's is Mad Space and Knuckles is Space. I can't remember the name, but just a lot of the music in that game is fantastic. Like, a lot of people think that Knuckles' raps are really corny. I love Knuckles' raps. They're probably my favorite music in the game, aside from, Sonic's theme. I love Shadow's theme. It's funny that, like, people don't think of that as iconic, whereas I really do. I don't know, I associate it with Shadow a lot. Eggman's theme, obviously, which is just amazing. It's really representative of who he is. The story with Gerald and Maria, which is, really outlandish and bizarre when you think about it, but I don't know. There was something that was grand about the story that, I as a kid really, really enjoyed, and I look back at as an adult and I think it's really funny, and I still enjoy because of just how, over the top it is. A lot of people, I understand, would stop liking it as a result of that, but I don't know. I think that there's a charm to it. It was taking itself too seriously, and as a result, I think it's meant to not be taken very seriously. And as for, this drawing that I'm doing, it was still during a time where the first few thumbnails I was using weren't original. It was just a capture of like a desktop image of all the characters from Sonic Adventure 2. Battle, of course, because I don't think I've ever experienced the original Sonic Adventure on Dreamcast. So Battle was usually, Battle was what I always played, and that was where I based everything off of. So I didn't really know about the Cat cameos. I read about them online, but I was like, I've never seen Big the Cat. And just even reading about it, it creeped me out. Like, just the idea of, oh, Big's right there. It was a scary thought to me. I used just whatever background I found on Google from Sonic Adventure 2, and then just wrote, everything wrong with Sonic Adventure 2 in 27 minutes, and, just went with that. And then the second image I used, the thumbnail that I drew, you can tell that I kind of, again, as with the Sonic Unleashed one, I had a better grasp on Flash. I was understanding it a little bit more. But, I mean, even looking back on it, there's a lot of stuff about it that's so terrible. I hate the way I drew Rouge in that one. Chao is probably my favorite thing about the old thumbnail, because he just looks so funny to me, just smiling while Sonic's trying to suffocate him, choking him. Shadow, I don't think looks too bad. Obviously could be much better. His quills were fine. His coloring, I think, was fine. One of his eyes was bigger than the other, though, so that always bothered me. And this time around, I figured, like I said in the Sonic Unleashed video, I'm just going to draw Shadow, Rouge, and Chao because they're, I think that they're the most representative things about Sonic Adventure 2, aside from Sonic, of course. Because, Shadow is the new character, Rouge is the new character, Chao's a new character, and they're all, staple characters of the Sonic franchise. I haven't drawn the Chaos Emeralds in a really, really long time, so I thought it would be a cool idea to implement them. As someone suggested, they said that Shadow should be holding the Chaos Emerald in his classic pose, but by the time I started drawing it, I was like, well, you know what? Actually, if I try to draw him in in the pose that he's first seen in the game, he would probably take up a lot of space. Because that's kind of what I tried to do in the past thumbnail, which I didn't even realize. I totally forgot that I actually drew Shadow holding a Chaos Emerald in that thumbnail as well, and he almost has a very similar expression too as the one I'm drawing right now. That wasn't intentional at all. I didn't even realize it until after the fact. I was looking at the thumbnail, and I realized they both have the closed mouth, the little check mark kind of mouth,
and they're both holding the emerald. If only they were holding the emerald in the same hand, that would have been awesome, but they're not. Rouge, Rouge is a character I don't draw very often, or I didn't draw when I was younger. Whenever I did, she looked terrible, but I didn't really draw her much as a kid. And I'm pretty happy with how she came out this time around. It kind of makes me realize how much I actually really like Rouge's, despite how simple her color palette is, they're colors that aren't really used all too much, especially in conjunction. Like the shade of her eyelids is a color that's like, that's not a shade of blue I think of immediately. Her eyes are not a shade of green I think of immediately. You know, the pink and the white, like, I don't know, there's a lot about her color palette that's so, like, soft and nice, and I like it. Obviously that wasn't the case in the original Sonic Adventure 2 artwork, because she's, like, her skin is much darker, and I made it much lighter here. And I figured I'd draw her with the Chaos Emeralds. I wanted to draw her with the 3 Chaos Emeralds she gets from oh god, what the hell's the name of that stage? I'm drawing a blank. The Chaos Emerald she gets on Prison Island. God, that one mission where she has to get them in 5 minutes, which I remember when I was a kid, that mission actually gave me a hard time. I don't know why. But yeah, like, I figured I'd draw her with that as kind of a nod to that mission. However, I couldn't draw all 3. Like, planning it out, I couldn't draw all 3. Like I've said before, I don't really plan out my drawing. So when I started to get into it, I realized that if I drew all 3, I'd really be obscuring her chest, which, you know, is kind of it's sort of I mean, as sexist as it sounds, it's kind of a character trait. And I kind of wanted to show that, because I really like drawing her, like, heart chest plate, especially because this piece is something that has, like, a lot of shiny parts to it. You know, Shadow's wristlet, the Chaos Emeralds, Rouge's chest plate. Omo Chao himself is made out of metal, and, like, there was just a bunch of shiny stuff I drew, and I didn't want to obscure it, so I opted to just draw 2 of them. Not to mention I couldn't remember all the colors of it. I think it's the white, red, and blue ones, well, cyan, because the blue one there are 2 blue ones. One is blue, the other is cyan. But I believe these are the ones she steals in that one mission, and I just kind of wanted to make that, like, scene, to show off that, like, oh yeah, she's a treasure hunter and all that. And I don't know, I do like how they came out, because it again, this is a piece where I draw stuff I don't normally draw. Like Shadow, I know off the top of my head. I don't need a reference for him, but when it comes to the Chaos Emeralds, like, I've drawn them differently all my life. And even then, I don't draw them all too often. Rouge, same deal. Like, I never really draw Rouge, so it's really a good experience for me to, you know, draw her and understand a little bit more about how she is drawn, and, you know, her color palette and all that stuff. Omo Chao Omo Chao's just a straight up character I don't think anybody ever draws. But I did enjoy it, because it has a bunch of rounded shapes, which is what I love drawing, and it's kind of annoying because he's more of a perfect rounded shape, and I'm not so used to that. Like, look at his hands. They're perfect, you know, spheres, and I can't draw that. look at the side of his, like, of his right arm, of his right hand. Like, it gets kind of wobbly on the side, but, you know, I do love drawing, you know, circular stuff and rounded shapes. I don't know, it's really fun. And just making things look shiny is also very fun. So Omo Chao was a very fun character to draw and experiment with, especially because he's a character I don't draw very often, like I said. And, you know, making him shine and thinking, like, oh, well, he's not flat, so I gotta make it look curved, and I can't just leave the shine like that, I have to curve it a little. And then the bendy, like, propeller thing on the top of his head, I think, is also an interesting thing, because I don't draw very bendy stuff. But yeah, and another thing about Chao is I never minded him when I was a kid. Like, when I grew up and like I started seeing stuff on the internet about how people hated Chao because he was so annoying, I didn't really get it. I was like, oh, people are giving Chao a hard time. I never found him annoying. And then like I went back to the game one day and I was like, oh, actually, he's always been annoying. I still don't really mind Chao, but I can definitely see where people are coming from when they say that he's annoying. Compositing this piece wasn't really all too hard. The background is just Space Colony Arc. It's the same background I used. Ironically, I had to look up the image again. It's the same background I used for my last thumbnail, and I was hoping it would be, because I do like that thumbnail, or I do like that background rather. So here I'm just adding, I wanted to add a glow to the emeralds, and here you'll see me trying to just leave the emerald by itself and then add a glow to it. And when it came to the green emerald, I liked it. I liked it enough. I liked how the glow looked. But when I tried doing it for the cyan and red emeralds, it's really an oxymoron now that I think about it. I couldn't pull the look off because the cyan's glow obscured the red emerald. So it was either have one or have none of them. And I felt like just having the green emerald's glow would have looked weird and a little distracting. So I just ended up not using either one of them. Because see, like right now I'm trying to compare, and they would have obscured Rouge too much. They would have been kind of too distracting, I think. So I figured, you know what, just don't use that at all. But anyway, this is the final piece. Next up, I do believe is... What is next? I think the next one I made was Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but I'm not going to be remaking that one. So next time we see each other, it won't be a Sonic video. It'll be Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. It's kind of I didn't know that was the 5th Everything Wrong With I ever made. That was the first, I guess, non-Sonic Everything Wrong With I ever made. Because Brawl, that wasn't even my idea. That was Stargamer's idea. My buddy Stargamer. And Sonic's in it, so this is the first Everything Wrong With that will not feature Sonic in any way, shape, or form. And I'm glad to be remaking this one because holy crap, that thumbnail sucks. So I can't wait to see what I do for it. Again, if you have any suggestions, I'll take them in the comments. You know, like, should I just draw Sly with the Thievius Raccoonus? I don't think I'll be drawing Sly with Bentley and Murray, because that's more of a thing in the future games. That, like, Sly 1 is just pretty much, it's just Sly. Maybe with Clockwork, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe and stay awesome. This is Chao 5 signing off.